Hello everyone, and welcome to my next Let's Play. Since I just finished Metroid Zero Mission, I figured, you know what? Why not do the game that came out right before in the series? This is Metroid 4, otherwise known as Metroid Fusion for the Game Boy Advanced. And it's by far the most storyline heavy in the series until Other M came out about, almost 2 years ago. Wow. Jeez. And it opens with Samus, just fresh, well, at the time of its release, I guess, just fresh from her Super Metroid trip. And she apparently feels like going through an obstacle course. I wonder why. We'll find out in about 7 seconds, I guess. And warp speed, go! Crap, that didn't end well. Now, that was an intro, wasn't it? Yep, this game came out approximately 2 years before. There's my previous save file. And the story commences. The story begins with Samus being assigned to work with Biological Space Labs research team with the Galactic Federation. So she found herself on the surface of SR-388, invented planet name, by the way. This is her second time on the surface. The first time not being in Zero Mission, but in Metroid 2 Return to Samus for the Game Boy Monochrome, which is the black sheep in the series, and I will get to eventually. And so she shoots one of the very few normal enemies in Metroid 2, and she's attacked by this gelatinous goop. As for what it is, we don't know. But until, well, at least until now, they named it the Parasitic Form X. Not that X. So, when she's on her ship, which is the intro, she begins to lose consciousness and she starts to drift. And she now has two faces. I actually didn't get what that image was until recently, during my more recent playthroughs on the Ambassador version of this on my 3DS. But it's then that she's found by the Galactic Feds, people who are barely in the storyline until this point, unless you read the manuals. And either her suit's licking orange juice, or she got tanged by the Yellow Devil from Mega Man. If you guys know what that's a reference to, or who on YouTube that's a reference to, yet again, high five! I just high five someone from over the internet. I'm awesome. I can't believe I just did it. But anyway, they actually had to remove her suit parts, blah 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 blah. But then someone found a cure, Metroid DNA. This is from the last Metroid, traces of it that they found on her suit after after Super Metroid, which was Metroid 3. As for how they thought up with this, I don't know. And then the X-parasites within her system were completely and immediately destroyed. But along with that, her cellular makeup was rewritten. And that TV is loud, Jesus. And thus, she's reborn as a phoenix. No. As I mentioned in Zero Mission, at one point... Well, one thing, the Metroid DNA turned her into part Metroid. And this is where the title thing comes in that I mentioned in Zero Mission, where Metroid is also the total word for warrior. So it's not talking about the individual creatures at this point, it's also talking about Samus herself. And she owes the Metroid hatchling her life twice over. As for why, we'll see if I eventually do Super Metroid. And that was just Mr. Purple telling us what to do. Blah. And with a new suit, which is also playable in Metroid Prime if you hook up your Game Boy Advance to the original GameCube version. I don't remember how they do it in Trilogy. We also get a new shipping computer, which, thanks to a certain YouTube celebrity, I will hereby reference as Mr. Purple. But well, she doesn't. Now, actually, as I mentioned as I've mentioned in Zero Mission, Samus is a freelance bounty hunter, but she usually does work for the Galactic Federation. That's actually because the Japanese and English meanings of bounty hunter is different. When we think bounty hunter, we think something like Boba Fett. But in Japan, it's more like samurai or something. You work for them, but you work for them, but in the meantime, you do like spare jobs and stuff. And luckily, there are no map rooms in this game. Pretty much what we have to do right now, and by the way, notice we're just starting to get to the gameplay 6 minutes in. Still not as bad as Persona 3, but still. Did I say Persona 3? I meant Persona 4. Jesus Christ, that prologue was 3 hours long. Now we have to get to the space lab, quarantine bay, to check on some samples. Now, in terms of gameplay and control, this is almost exactly like Fusion, except the gravity's a bit different. Zero Mission and Super Metroid have the thing in common where you can have the same gravity to the point in which case you can change your momentum immediately in the other direction. In Fusion, you can't do that, making wall jumping a bit more not as abusable, because in Super Metroid and Zero Mission, you can wall jump off one wall. In this, though, not so much. Bioscience are confirmed. That means we're gonna face our first enemy in there. I wonder why. Now, in navigation rooms, you're gonna be finding a lot. You're gonna have to stop at one at the beginning of each area to either get your objective or go through some small cutscenes. As I will say, out of all the Metroids, this is probably my favorite storyline. Because even I'll admit, while I did like Other M's storyline, it did seem a bit contrived at some points. Why did I stop there? Now, like with Zero Mission, this is post-commentary, if you can't tell. And now, as it turns out, the field team and every other thing on this main deck is infected by the X-Parasites. And that is really well animated for a Game Boy Advance sprite, by the way. Holy, that looks awesome. And as it turns out, the reason that the Metroid vaccine works so well is because the X were if you remember correctly back in Zero Mission, I mentioned that the Metroid were created to fight a certain thing on SR-388, which is where the Metroids are from. They were there to fight these things, the X-Parasites. They're the natural predator created by the Chozo. Because SR-388 is a Chozo homeworld, and so is Zebes. I'm doing the series really out of order. I started on the remake of the first one, then I go right to the final one, the storyline so far. If you can just run right past the enemy, he will not touch you. And now we get these goop zombies, and which I don't understand what they really are. Are they supposed to be dead researchers? I never understood that. And now they can support us downloadable weapons data that allows us to use our previous things. Because she actually starts off with all the stuff she has, like another M. But due to the crash, she loses it all with the old power suit. Now we have to get it all, and the reason they can't give it all to us at once is because they're actually developing the weapons data as we're going along through the game. Even though this game's only going to be just a little under 2 hours long if I play my cards right. And now we get a bit of minor monologuing from Samus. This is only in this game as far as I know besides Other M. And it mentions Adam Malkovich, who is in both this cutscene and Other M. As for why they're bringing that up, we'll find out eventually. Now, this is the first of the navigation rooms you can actually go right through. That will allow you to do that every now and then. And we get missile data, which is used the exact same way it was in Zero Mission. Then again, or should I say Zero Mission uses it the exact same way as this, because I think Zero Mission came out 2 years later. And now, since the power went out for some reason, we have to find another way to the targets. And how do we do this? By destroying government property! And now we can finally destroy these guys. And now, in terms of X-Parasites that enemy dropped, there are 3 kinds. Yellow, which restores health. Green, which destroys which replenishes ammo. And red, which only certain things we're gonna see one very soon drop. And those at this point will restore all your health, but they won't do that all the time. They just restore a lot of it. So yeah, we've had the missiles for less than a minute, and we already have doubled them. And another one of these eye doors. There's a lot more of them in this than there were in Zero Mission, so we're gonna be seeing a lot of these. And why can't their lasers destroy the other enemies? Like the one in Ridley's lair back in Zero Mission, 3 shots to the eye does it. And he drops a red parasite, you know you didn't get to see it. And we get our first energy tank. Like, they did the exact same thing they did in Zero Mission. I hope we don't do that often. Anyway, shoot missiles up there, jump up there, and get a second energy tank immediately afterwards. Fall down here to face the first boss. A guy that has a name, but I can't remember it, but he's also in Metroid 2. Now, one thing you gotta notice is every boss you get an ability like you did in other Metroid games. If you notice, he rolled into a ball there, and most bosses will do this, by the way, that if you pay attention to their moveset, they will use the item you're gonna get from them. And since he rolled from a ball, well, we can immediately assume we're gonna get the morph ball immediately. 3 missiles, and it's down. Getting a Core X, which is what that's called, replenishes all energy and weapons, along with acquiring a new ability. Morph ball is the exact same as it was in the other game. Anyway, now that we've accomplished the mission, every time you do that, you have to head immediately to your nearest navigation room. And really not much to talk about right here. Actually, I have a question. What exactly are those boxes? Are those supposed to be like ladders or something? And as this thing is Mr. Purple's feared, the X7 have entered the breeding grounds, specifically Sector 1, SRX, which is a replication of the SR3D8 environment. So that's going to be the closest we're going to get to a Metroid 2 remake. Roll down here, get another missile tank. By the way, like with Zero Mission, this will not be 100%. I'll just get what I can along the way. And it actually makes sense for this one, because you can speedrun 100% the other two to some extent, but the first 3 to some extent. Like Super Metroid definitely, but with this one, you need to take a lot out of your way, and what the hell? My power suit! Ah! This is a creature that I'm not gonna name yet, but it scared the crap out of me when I first played the game. Anyway, if you like this video, rate, comment, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And as Michael Bay apparently takes place in the background, I'll see you guys next time. See you then.